Hi everybody, this is Panic here again with another series on my YouTube channel. This is the start and the first episode of a series where I react to different videos, whether that be other people playing games or different subject matter like the NBA draft, prospects such as that. So yeah, this is the start of another series. It's just short and sweet. I pretty much just react to other stuff. So yeah, let's get started. So today's video that we're gonna take a look at is NBA player comparisons for every top pick in 2020 NBA Draft Part 1. It's by a guy on YouTube named Treese. Go follow him if you don't already. I don't subscribe to follow him or anything, but I'll do it right now. He's got 54.5k subscribers, and he's usually got some pretty good content all the time. And yeah, we're just going to take a look at this and see if we agree with any of the stuff.
One of the hardest challenges that comes with new players entering the NBA is drawing up NBA player comparisons for their career. I mean, every year we see.
So let me preface this by saying it's kind of unfair to put these lofty expectations on these young players, because as somebody that's played basketball myself at a decently high level, um I would say it's almost completely unfair to like label the next athletic dunker that has a nice mid-range Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? Because I mean it's nice praise, but at certain I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like it's just too much praise can actually hurt sometimes, because then the expectations become a very real thing and you kind of get like disappointed in the player just because they don't live up to be a Michael Jordan. So
Horrible comparisons that are so outlandish that have us looking back retrospectively and wondering how we could all be so clueless. That being said, I'm going to throw myself into the shoes of those who task themselves with making comparisons for draftees entering the NBA, so that one day I can look back at myself and call myself a genius, or visit this video and laugh incredibly hard about how stupid I was. What's good everybody, it's Treese, and before we get into the NBA player comparisons, I'm going to firstly put out that this is just part 1 of this short series, so if there are any players you want me to hit on in part 2, then definitely.
speaking of that, if you guys want me to do the next part, like next week's reaction video on this, because we're gonna do each series is gonna be a weekly upload, but we're gonna do 3 uploads a week. If you want me to do the part 2 to this, just let me know in the comment section, or just hit me up on Twitter or any social media, and just if I see a little bit of interest, I'll do the part 2 of this, because I'm actually interested in seeing what prospects he's like giving comparisons to, because like I know a few prospects, but I don't know all of them. So I would say my analysis on this isn't going to be the greatest, and some of these players are going to be a shot in the dark.
Definitely let me know who those guys are down below in the comments. And also, I would just like to mention that I upload basketball and NBA related videos every 3 days, so I definitely think that you would enjoy becoming a subscriber of our channel, as we just hit 50.
As he said already, if you're not already subscribed to the dude, he's got some really good content that he puts out there.
And are now on the road to 60k, and also leaving a like is an awesome way of conveying that you enjoy watching these videos and want more to come. And lastly, I just opened a Discord server, which you can find the link to in the description, where we talk all sorts of basketball, so make sure to join that if interested. Now, with that all out of the way, let's get into the very first comparison. The first NBA player comparison will be for Devin Vassell, and his comparison is Andre Iguodala, like Philadelphia 76ers.
So I know Iguodala, so I'm gonna let him. I'll let him get into what he thinks about Iguodala or what Vassell's gonna do, what type of Iguodala, because Iguodala had 2 very different career paths. When he was on the Sixers, he was a good player on a bad team, so he's putting up empty stats. But once he went to a good team, like the Warriors, obviously he was stopped at the Nuggets and I think a few other places. But if he's trying to say Devin Vassell is going to be like Andre Iguodala to where he was good player, bad team, I'm not necessarily sure about that. But like I don't have enough scouting report or scouting information on Devin Vassell to like know if he's going to turn out and be this. But if he turns out and being like a 6-man, a defensive stopper, a guy that can kind of like handle the ball a little bit, maybe hit a few threes, that's the ideal thing you want anyways in like a pick like this, because I'm pretty sure they picked a little bit later in the draft. a little bit later in the lottery, that is.
Sixers Andre Iguodala. Devin Vassell is one of those players who kind of emerged out of nowhere this past season in terms of
Yeah, hence why I didn't know much about him.
During his freshman year in college, his future in the NBA was a bit of a question, as he didn't really get off to a great start, but he really transformed as a player entering his sophomore season. He displayed the ability to score in a multitude of ways, and throughout several moments he displayed possible shot creating potential. To add to all of this, Devin Vassell is amongst the top perimeter defenders of his class, and has shown that he can shoot 3-pointers at an almost top tier level for prospects in the class this year, and those two last aspects of his game have a lot of people claiming he will be your typical 3-and-D guy. But the more that I watch him, the more that my mind really changes. Plenty of what I described sounds a lot like Andre Iguodala, who while playing for the 76ers quickly emerged as one of the more athletic forwards that the league had to offer, meanwhile boasting a decent 3-point shot. Now, although Devin Vassell doesn't quite match Andre Iguodala as an athlete, at least in my opinion, he can become better than Iggy in several.
Not many people are going to match a player like Andre Iguodala as an athlete. And then on top of that, I don't know if, even from like these clips that he's showing, like we're about to see a few more clips. Let's see if he actually has like the shot creating potential that Iguodala had.
Other areas, but all in all, I find this comparison very fit as the ceiling of Devin Vassell, as I project a possible couple-time All-Star one day out of Devin Vassell.
Couple-time All-Star, I'm not sure about that. Maybe really.
Last year as a 76er, earned his first and only All-Star.
Maybe like a really good role player, maybe a one-time All-Star at one point.
Next is Obi Toppin.
Obi Toppin, I got a lot of scouting on. I think he's kind of like a blend of. Now, don't quote me on this. I don't like giving comparisons, but like the easiest way to describe him is like a blend of Amari and Blake Griffin. He's not as good as like a creator as Blake Griffin, like a guy that's going to dribble terribly often. He's a little more like Amari in that aspect. He's stiff on defense, kind of like Amari was. If he could take his athleticism and translate it to the defensive end, just even in a little, like the slightest, I think he's going to be a good pick. He's like he's got an advanced age as like a draft prospect. So I'm just hoping, like, since he's ready, like NBA ready, like body wise and like age wise, he'll come out and be like a Joe Burrow of the NBA. That'd be nice. That'd be good for our league.
Dayton, whose NBA player
that'd be good for the Knicks too.
Is Stromile Swift, and for those of you who don't know,
I don't know Stromile Swift.
Possibly the most athletic big man in NBA history that you have never heard of. Swift had a lot of expectations for him as a second overall pick, and his electrifying dunks and wild upside had scouts believing he could become the next awesome big man.
I think he's closer to Amari than he is Stromile Swift.
This is my issue with Obi Toppin. Now, I think that there are several other things about Obi Toppin that he can do other than just dunking, and Toppin is a player who my mind changes on about every week, so next week I'll probably think he is the next Amari Stoudemire, but the more I think about him, the further away I get from that comparison. Obi Toppin has displayed a reasonable 3-pointer, a fair ability to get to the cup, and a few other things, but what he really doesn't offer is what I'm more concerned about. His defense is not horrible, but it's not great at all. His feet are a bit heavy on that end, and I'm not really sure what to make of his motor.
If he can add his three, he can work on his three / his mid range, and then like a little bit of his defense, dog, he'd be nasty.
Yeah, he has a lot of space to grow, but
I think he's got like a mid to high floor.
Can't really be worked on that much. Obi Toppin is an amazing lob threat and possibly has the highest floor out of the players in his projected landing range, but I'm not really quite sure what to make of everything that he lacks. This being said, I hope that he proves me wrong, and hopefully one day we will look back at this comparison and call me really stupid. And the third player we will be...
This is the one I'm excited about right here. I like the Ball brothers. I still think Lonzo is... I still think, one, he has potential still. Two, I just like Lonzo as a player. I take defense at a premium. So, I mean, I like LaMelo's a little bit different. So, like, you're getting a little bit of shot creation from the looks of it. He looks like he has the vision of his brother. You hope he can develop his defense a little bit. He's gigantic. He's like 6'7", 6'8". So, I mean, he could see over the top of people. Yeah, I'm excited to see what LaMelo does because they really need star power in Charlotte, and the way that Charlotte has been, like they just need star power. And LaMelo has had like this NBA star, like he hasn't had like the skills of an NBA star, but he's had like the spotlight of an NBA star ever since like he cherry picked for like 92 points. You know what I mean?
LaMelo Ball and his NBA player comparison is Jason Kidd. And LaMelo Ball is undoubtedly one of the hardest
Jason Kidd though. Jason Kidd was like, I would say Jason Kidd more fits Lonzo.
Tall for their position. Then you have to narrow down to players who are top tier playmakers. Then you are left with guys like Magic Johnson, Penny Hardaway, Oscar Robertson, and the list narrows heavily thereafter. I will be the first to admit that the Jason Kidd comparison has its flaws, and well, there are plenty of them. But as I said, it is very difficult with a player like LaMelo Ball. He is 3 or 4 inches taller.
It is indeed difficult, but I think he's a rich man's Sean Livingston. Like, I think he's Sean Livingston 2.0.
Is relatively close,
but he can like, this is like Sean Livingston pre-injury before like he became like a role player. Like a lot of my younger viewers are a lot of like young viewers
point guards ever list
in general,
because his per game numbers minus his assists
would probably not know who Sean Livingston is or what he was capable of.
As I said, his impact was undeniable, and this is what I'm expecting out of LaMelo Ball. He might not give you 25 a night like the rest of the league's superstars, but when he steps onto the court, expect LaMelo to be unselfish, get your team open shots, score reasonably, and most importantly, help your team win games. And though this doesn't reflect a rookie LaMelo Ball, or even probably a sophomore or third year LaMelo Ball, I'm betting on this comparison very far down the road. The next NBA player that I will be
Killian Hayes is another one I like.
And his comparison is Spencer Dinwiddie. So I kind of wanted to refrain from the D'Angelo Russell comparison because I think it's a bit too superficial, as they are both tall lefty point guards, and also
so I like the D'Angelo Russell comparison. I also think he's like a little bit lower, less athleticism, kind of like James Harden. He's that natural combo guard that's got like a little bit of playmaking, like how D'Lo was when he came out of Ohio State. Killian Hayes, in my opinion, I think he has a lot, like I said, a lot of potential. All these guys come in with a lot of potential. You can't really like levy and put these comparisons on people, in my opinion, until they get a little bit more time in the league, because you need to see what their work ethic is. You know what I mean?
I don't think Killian Hayes is going to be shooting nearly as many threes as D'Angelo Russell is right now, and I don't think he will be a very efficient shooter as he comes into the league, and he will be quite inefficient at times, which kind of reminds me of Spencer Dinwiddie, a very good shot creator who can distribute at a reasonable level.
I actually changed my mind kind of. I think
much more potential as a playmaker than Spencer Dinwiddie has shown us so far in his career.
I think the Dinwiddie thing is spot on
as Dinwiddie in terms of attacking the basket and as a scorer, but Killian Hayes is going to be a good ball handler, passer, and pick and roll maestro that any team will want off the bench. And as he develops, Killian Hayes projects to become a solid starter. I definitely think that Killian Hayes has star potential, and I'm sure that he will fulfill most of it. However, I do think it will take him quite a bit of time to adjust to the American style of basketball, which is really fast paced and more single player oriented than Europe, which will be difficult for Killian. But given some time,
I 100% think that anybody's going to have an adjustment period coming from there. Halliburton's another one that I'm excited for.
Is Lonzo Ball. Now this
I could see that.
Seem a little bit strange when you first think about it, but the more you do, the more it makes sense. Both players are about the same height, shoot threes quite well, and Halliburton right now projects to be a better shooter than Lonzo has been so far, though Lonzo has improved, especially in this past year. Both can play make, both can play solid defense, and I think both players contribute in about the same way to their respective teams. I don't really think that Tyrese Halliburton has a super high ceiling. In fact, I would argue that even Lonzo's is higher as of right now, but Halliburton does have some potential to overcome being the next Lonzo.
Halliburton is he's a nice 3-and-D little prospect, man. He kind of reminds me of like a taller Mike Conley, I don't know if he'll ever have like the scoring like ability and the burst that Conley has. But I kind of like him. I'd like him as like a 6-man. If he reaches like the top of his ceiling, I know this guy said that he doesn't think his ceiling is that very high or whatever, but I think he's probably can be neck and neck with Lonzo in terms of ceiling. I think Lonzo still has a lot of potential. I might be in the minority on that, but like I like Halliburton a lot, man.
Ball, and I wouldn't disagree with you if you think his potential is much higher than Lonzo, but I'm projecting just a very solid starting point guard who might not ever make an all-star game but will make tons of money in the NBA being unselfish and playing his role. So guys, remember this was just part 1 of this short series.
So as the man said, that was part 1 of his video. If you want me to do part 2, make sure you go down below and leave a comment. Tell me if you're interested or whatever. Drop me a few likes, maybe subscribe to the channel if you're feeling froggy. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And that's the end of this video today.